Hey folks, welcome back to the live stage show here at E3 2011. I'm Chris Waters, here to talk about a game that I had the pleasure of seeing yesterday in Nintendo's booth, but that you're going to have fun seeing right now. It's The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Joining me is Eric Peterson, localization producer for the game. Eric, welcome to the stage.
Hey, great to be here. Excited to show the game.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting game to be showing off. I mean, Legend of Zelda doesn't make a whole lot of appearances, and so here at E3, you guys are on the show floor in a big way.
Yeah, we're really excited to show off this game to people, give them some hands-on time. You can see there's even some stuff in the booth, with the birds. We're going to be, showing you a bunch of stuff today. I kind of want to run through, a little bit about what we're showing here, and maybe give you some more background info.
Well, let's first talk about the birds before we do too much else, because we just saw that awesome leap off into the cliff, into the clouds. You're just free falling for a moment.
It feels so good. Feels so good.
It does, and then boom, your trusty mount swoops under. And now you're flying a bird!
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is a little bit of bird riding. I should give a little background information on what's going on here. So Link has grown up in a world that really knows only a life above the clouds. They've really only lived there for as long as anyone can remember. And their whole knowledge is this, living above the clouds and flying birds. As you can see here a little bit, there's an expansive area above the clouds here that you can actually go later on and explore. It's a little bit kind of like the ocean, in Wind Waker, where you can head out, check things out. Actually, a lot of these little islands here that you're seeing off in the distance, you can actually fly over them, leap off, land on, do a little bit of exploration. Of course.
Now, do you get back on the bird by jumping off into oblivion again?
Exactly. Yeah, you can jump off again. And in this world, they don't really know anything below the clouds. It's been kind of a forbidden, dark and evil place, and all they've known is life above the clouds. So, of course, later on, you're going to explore that world.
Find out a thing or two about beneath the clouds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sort of that similar, start in the little village, expand into the world beyond, that a lot of Legend of Zelda games embrace.
Well, speaking of that village, one of the areas you can kind of see here is a village called Skyloft, and that's going to be kind of a hub area in the game. You're going to be going back there again and again, maybe picking up some extra potions, maybe upgrading your items. But speaking of upgrading, one of the really cool things about this particular game is that, in the previous games, you might collect tons of rupees, and maybe by the end of the game, you're not even sure what you want to spend them on.
Yeah, or you just have so many that, you're all set.
Yeah, you're all set. Believe me, there's no shortage of things to spend your rupees on in this one. Actually, beyond that, you're going to be collecting items throughout your adventure, and some of them are pretty hard to find. It's not easy to get, and really amassing those, and then you're going to be spending them to upgrade, things like, some of your items, maybe even your shields. And so it's a reason to keep collecting stuff, keep finding stuff.
Sure, I mean that whole classic Zelda mechanic of you gain your your bow and arrow, but then you gain the fire arrows. You get your wallet, but then you get your wallet that can actually hold a couple hundred rupees. That just keeps driving you forward and exploring.
Well, in this game, there's just more reason than ever to keep exploring, keep checking things out, and that upgrade system actually really adds a lot to the game.
No doubt. So we just saw bird riding, which is obviously a form of locomotion akin to sailing. King of the Red Lions in Wind Waker. Similar design aesthetics, like coloration too, from the boat to the bird as well.
There's a similarity there, and later on you're going to see that you can actually open these portals down into the world below and fly down and explore those areas, and then you're actually going to be able to go back up, and at will later on using these statues. So that's something you're going to have to kind of stay tuned to see more of.
Sure. Yeah. That you explore and you go further and further, but then you master that exploration. You can travel a little quicker. Very cool. And now, so tell us where we've ended up now.
All right.
Link is back in his iconic outfit.
Yes.
Rocking the Hylian shield.
Yes. Okay. A couple things to point out here. This is the first dungeon that you're going to be, experiencing in the game. And a couple of things to really mention here is that this is a game that uses Wii Motion Plus. And it really uses it to amazing effect. Everything from controlling your items here. You've got Julian here who's playing is controlling the beetle, flying that around. You're going to be using Wii Motion Plus for all of that. To all of the sword fighting, it just feels so realistic, so real. you have a real connectedness to it. And actually, here's an enemy here, and he'll face off against this guy. It's almost like every enemy you face is kind of its own combat puzzle. Because you can't just like spam a button or just kind of flail to really beat an enemy. What you're really going to notice is that they're going to be blocking attacks.
Sure.
If they have their sword raised vertically, you have to think about that, and you remember you're going to slash down, because if you come from the side, they're going to block.
They're going to block.
So you really have to approach every enemy as its own combat puzzle.
And you see, one of the visual indicators of this Wii Motion Plus functionality, folks, is if you see Link, he's holding his sword out. He's not holding it in the same place every time. He's maybe holding it off to the right a little bit, a little higher, a little lower. That's that Wii Motion Plus in action.
Exactly. I mean, it really feels like you have that sword in your hand. So if you, for example, want to be, slicing from the side, you're actually going to do a side slice. You can even do things like, slice from, diagonally up, any angle you want. And you're going to see later on in this demo that you're going to face off enemies that really require you to constantly be attacking them from whatever opening you can see.
Yeah. Now, folks are, very intrigued by the sword, and also certainly about Zelda canon. One of the questions coming in from James in England is about left hand versus right hand.
All right.
Which sword, which is Link's sword hand.
It's understandable. It's always something that comes up. Traditionally, what we've done with these games is, when you have that nunchuck, that's on your left hand controlling that. In this game, we're going to stick with that right hand controlling the Wii remote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, user Chaos Blade in London wants to look back at the bird section a little bit and wonders if there's combat when you're on the bird.
That's something you're going to have to stay tuned on a little bit. We're probably going to talk a little bit more of that later. But, we got to leave a few surprises for you. You don't want to know everything right now, do you?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I kind of do. But yes, I understand the motivation. And here we see a skeleton just being sliced apart.
Right.
Again, you folks probably saw the skeleton, holding its sword.
So that's a great example. The skeleton is constantly moving. Their sword's blocking, and you have to see that opening and strike right when you have that moment. Just another example about how that combat can be a puzzle. Another thing I want to mention about the dungeons in this game, or this is the first dungeon, but this is the first game in the series where I really felt like everything is a puzzle, and sometimes it's a dungeon just to get into the dungeon. I mean, it's like, the lead-ups to these things are, just as challenging in a way as the dungeon itself. There's no easy entrance into these things. So
expands the challenge out beyond.
Absolutely, and this is not a game that's easy. All right, there's some real challenge to this one. I think fans are going to be impressed.
Yeah, that's actually a question we got through here about the difficulty of the boss battles. Was wondering, is it going to be easy? Is it going to pose a good challenge?
I think it will pose plenty of challenge for people. This game is going to be pretty tough. It's pretty brutal.
Now I have a question, because I got a chance to play this demo yesterday. Got the upgraded beetle, and then this woman dressed in a cloak. She's got a gem on her head appears.
Right.
Who is she?
Okay, that's a major story element. Another thing that you don't really want to know too much about right now. Believe me, this is one of those games that when you dive into it for that first time, you really want to know as little as possible and that kind of stuff, because the story itself is it's amazing, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They've done a great job with that stuff.
And so we're seeing some beetle action, flying to where Link can't go.
Right.
Hitting switches, opening dungeons, that whole
some
stuff.
of that, and some of those puzzles, this is just one of the first dungeons here, but some of those puzzles get really pretty tough later on.
Yeah.
Really going to incorporate a lot of those items that you have. Another thing to talk about with that Wii Motion Plus is it's not just that Wii Motion Plus applies to your sword and your shield. I mean, it's also going to apply to every item that you get, and they all have a lot of unique control methods. With that beetle, you're controlling it and you're flying it around. But
the same way you do with the bird.
Yeah, but you can kind of use your imagination and kind of see where we might go with some other items using that Wii Motion Plus.
Well, last year at E3, you guys showed off the whip as one of
that's another great example. So satisfying to be flailing that around. Absolutely.
And any other gadgets you want to reveal this year?
We saw the beetle right now.
Before,
like I said, I know I'm being kind of coy, but the Zelda series is one of those ones that I think fans like to have those surprises when they engage with the game and dive into it first time. I know that as I've been going through it, there's nothing like that satisfaction you get when you play that Zelda dungeon for the first time. It's just like
that thrill of discovery.
It's just like nothing else really gives that kind of feel, and I know that people are really gonna dig that when they get into it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got some more questions coming in from the folks in Denmark. Actually, Thomas writes.
Long distance question.
Yeah, we've seen, we sort of saw the wide open Sky Island area, and you mentioned traveling to the world below.
Yes.
Will the worlds below be interconnected? Will you do, or would you have to come back up to the Sky Islands? Like, what is the sort of whole world map? How does that fit
work?
together?
Okay, well, we're not really showing any of the below the cloud stuff. I mean, you're seeing that we're jumping right to a dungeon, but what I can say is that as you're flying above, you're going to slowly throughout the adventure be opening portals down below, and that's where that interconnectedness comes in. So again, you can actually fly over those portals, dive back down, adventure some, find a statue, jump right back up, go back to your hub. There's that constant interplay between dipping down below the clouds and rising back up again.
And now we see some eyeballs freaking out and gaining access to yet another treasure chest and that like really iconic sound that Miyamoto-san was demoing with the orchestra in Nintendo during the press conference. A lot of questions about Zelda's history and any sort of connectivity. Typically it's the land of Hyrule, or people piece together a timeline. Sort of. Every game is sort of a game unto itself, but people tie these threads together. Do you want to comment on any of those?
It's a delicate subject, and we don't want to reveal too much. But I can say that this story does deal with the forging of the Master Sword. And that really does play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does.
An important event.
Yeah, huge event, and also it does lead up to the events in the Ocarina of Time. And that's really, I'll leave it at that. Say that.
And of course, Ocarina of Time 3D coming out.
Yes.
A whole new generation of folks going to get to experience that one.
So there's really going to be a nice interplay there. People are experiencing Zelda for the first time.
And Henrik, who has clearly experienced Zelda before, writes from Norway, asking if Koji Kondo is composing the music or collaborating on, the sort of iconic Zelda tunes, the new riffs you guys are creating for Skyward Sword. What about the music for this game?
The music orchestrated. So it's absolutely beautiful tune. I think you might have heard a little bit of that being woven into the press conference there at the end. I think there's some music there that fans may not have recognized immediately. And some of that stuff is coming from that new soundtrack. It is stunning, and they've done such an amazing job. And really, that orchestrated music makes such a huge difference to the impact of those scenes. And you saw a little bit taste for the cinematics and that art style. That you're seeing, really unique art style, amazing cinematics, and that music really draws together to create these really impactful scenes.
And speaking of music, music hasn't always just been background for Legend of Zelda. It's been a gameplay mechanic. Playing that ocarina. John from New York wants to know if this incarnation of Link is also a musical fellow.
There might
be playing an instrument.
There might be a musical instrument making an appearance.
Yeah, these guys. It's every question you want to ask. It's I want the answer, but I want to discover it too. It's definitely one of those games. And so now we're making our way through this dungeon.
So you're seeing a little bit of Wii Motion Plus there, doing a little balancing here. This is just a slice of this dungeon. I think that the overall experience is huge. All of these dungeons can be just massive experiences, and like I said, sometimes just getting into the dungeon itself is enough challenge. It can really be an adventure.
And we've also, of course, because some of Nintendo's big news this year at the press conference is the Wii U.
Right.
And we've got Niall from Dublin, as well as Ricardo from Mexico, asking if, backwards compatible this, like functionality with the Wii U, that. Do you guys have the Wii U in mind when you're developing this, or any sort of connectivity to that?
Right.
Is that on the plate, or are you just sort of focused on
So
this?
This game is, firmly a Wii game. It's coming out on Wii. It's coming out this holiday. Really, we're showing it for Wii, and that's what we're happy with. And we're really actually happy with how the visuals turned out on Wii. I think it looks beautiful. That art style is amazing. And the Zelda experience that we're showing on Wii U here, the HD experience, that was really designed as a separate thing, really something that is a showcase for what Wii U can do as far as graphics and also with that controllers.
And that is, I got a chance to see that, and that was pretty impressive.
It's definitely a jaw-dropping kind of thing.
HD Zelda has kind of been this phrase that people have been bandying. Imagine if this ever happened, wouldn't it be so wonderful? But one of the strengths of the Zelda series is its art design. And you guys, are clearly very proud of what you've done here in Skyward Sword.
Absolutely. I'm loving the art style, and I know that the team is really happy with how it turned out. A lot of people have described it different ways. It really is unique, in its own way, especially with all the different areas that we're not showing today. But I think that fans are really going to be impressed with how that looks. Especially again going back to those cinematics. I know that we're really happy with this on Wii. So.
Very cool. Now, so you've seen a bunch of the game. You're very familiar with it. Can you give us a taste of what's a moment that for you stands out? Like that. For me, in the demo, it was that leap off the cliff.
Oh yeah.
Is there something else? Another example of something that really intrigued you, or really just that you like to tell, that you want to share?
Well, I mean, obviously, jumping off that cliff for the first time, it feels amazing. But there's a couple different things here. Getting back into that dungeon here feels really good. Hearing those sounds, hearing those audio cues. But there's actually a boss battle, that people here are able to play for themselves. That introduces a new character and also gets you back into that kind of boss battle feel. It's not an easy boss battle either. You got a chance to check it out?
No, yeah. I mean, yes, I did, and no, it is not. I believe I wasn't sure on the pronunciation. Ghirahim
Ghirahim.
Ghirahim. Ghirahim is the boss, and he's a sort of a tall, slender guy, dressed in this like white spandex with diamond patterns. But he's really cocky and really haughty, and at one point you swing your sword at him, he catches it in his hand and just smirks.
He's definitely evil, and I'm glad you brought up that scene because that's kind of a heart-stopping moment where you're coming at him with a sword and you're just gonna hack him, and he literally just goes grabs it, and he stops it, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm not sure what to do now.
That was, I mean, I could throw a bomb at him, maybe.
and he's very graceful and slow, and he walks towards you, and it's a pretty terrifying scene, I think. Yeah.
It's one of those, he seems all the tougher because he's not being ostentatious. He doesn't, have 8 limbs or a giant gaping maw. He's just kind of looks like a guy. But then he teleports and he's behind you. What?
Yeah, he's all over the place, and based off of that dialogue, you can tell he's pretty evil. Yeah, pretty evil.
And so probably a character folks are going to be seeing more of.
Something that people will be seeing more in the adventure. Yeah, definitely.
And it's the whole diamond aesthetic. Is that evocative of some of the stuff we might see below the clouds? Because clearly he's embraced, the diamonds on his shirt, the diamonds when he teleports. Compare that to the Triforce, which is an iconic Zelda icon.
I see you drawing connections. I see you drawing. You have to wait for the game itself to kind of see those for yourself. But
to reveal it,
definitely he plays a role in the game, and I think that he's evil. That's the only way to describe it.
Now, folks are wondering. I'm actually curious myself. Does Skyward Sword take advantage in any way of Wii's online connectivity?
Right. This is purely a single-player game, and that's really what the Zelda experience is all about.
Sure.
That sense of discovery, of kind of like a grand adventure where you're finding your way into dungeons, discovering new items, that kind of thing. Really focusing on that kind of experience with this. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, are you yourself trying to get your hands on that gold Wii Motion Plus we saw during the press conference?
So, I'll definitely be. I'll definitely try to pull some strings to get a hold of one of those things. I mean, it looks amazing. We're gonna have to wait to make more announcements on when those are gonna be available and when people are getting their hands on them. But I know that's how I'm gonna be playing this game. So
the solid gold, well, not solid gold, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I love the design on the front. I think it looks great.
Yeah. You have the Triforce with the definitely. You guys have definitely embraced this sort of classic Zelda, a lot of the classic iconography.
Yeah.
So one of the touchstones of this series that makes it so, has that continuity, makes it so beloved.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're definitely going to be seeing that throughout the game. It's one of those experiences that I think, there's that balance between making sure that you feel familiar, and there's that Zelda feel to everything. Mm-hmm. But they also want to give people unique, fresh experiences. I think this game has just nailed that, that bridge point between the two, where it feels like a Zelda game, but it really offers a lot of new experiences, really groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and really turns the tables on a lot of things.
That's very cool. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing this by.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I liked about this temple is, these design touches where you have these plants, then, some of them might, if slashed, yield a heart or something, but others are just there for the aesthetic sense, really sort of creates the sense that this is a rich world. And, you can slash that mushroom all you want. It's not going to yield anything except the delight of maybe practicing your cuts with the Wii Motion Plus.
Or, maybe not.
Or maybe not.
I think you're going to have to do a little bit more discovery for yourself. But, this is actually a good example of that sense of discovery when you're going through things. You're always constantly hunting for those little upgrade items because you really want those. I mean, the upgrades are going to be significant. And, another thing I want to point out here, and I won't talk too much about it, but I mean, you notice there is a shield gauge up there on the top left, and that's something that, people haven't really seen before.
A shield gauge.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
and now doing a little collecting of fungal spores in the environment.
Yep, exactly. So another example where, hey, you're slashing that mushroom, there might be a reason to do that. So you're going to be constantly collecting stuff in this game. And the really important reason is that now more than ever, there's a reason to do that. You aren't just collecting stuff for the sake of collecting it. You have a pretty strong motivation to be grabbing.
Yeah, you're gonna need to do that to progress.
It's a pretty deep system, I think. Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad to hear it, and folks, this has been a really lengthy and really satisfying look at Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. You mentioned when it was coming out. Mention it again.
All right, holiday. Coming out on holiday.
Coming out on the holiday this year.
Definitely pick it up. I mean, it's an incredible experience, and I know that fans are just going to eat it up when they get a chance to play it. So.
All right, Eric, thank you so much for coming by, showing it off. Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, we're definitely proud of it.
Excellent. Now, folks, if you are hungry for even more Skyward Sword stuff, check out our written preview of it, which includes some notes that were revealed during the Nintendo Developers Roundtable last night that you didn't see on the show here. Now we're off once more to the wilds of E3 and the Ubisoft booth to see what Homer Ibarra gets up to in that world.